Keir Starmer's leadership is crumbling. The cracks, once subtle and barely noticeable, have now exploded into an undeniable crisis. What began as a quiet murmur of discontent within the Labour Party has erupted into full-scale rebellion. Ministers are resigning, secrets are being exposed, and the very fabric of his leadership is disintegrating before our eyes. The Labour Party's promises of a new direction are now exposed as nothing more than hollow rhetoric, and Starmer's increasingly authoritarian grip on power is unraveling. At the heart of this political storm lies one fundamental truth: Starmer has failed to lead. His inability to unite his own party, his disregard for the values he once espoused, and his increasingly desperate attempts to cling to power are all contributing to his imminent downfall. Starmer's downfall was not an isolated event, it was years in the making. Initially, his leadership appeared promising. Labour, long relegated to the political margins, seemed to find a glimmer of hope under his command. Polls showed Labour on the rise, the public's expectations were cautiously optimistic, and Starmer had managed to maintain a carefully crafted image of competence. But beneath the surface, dissatisfaction was simmering. Starmer's leadership style, once deemed decisive, began to alienate those within his own ranks. His reluctance to consult with senior party members, his disregard for party unity, and his ever-increasing authoritarian approach left many Labour MPs feeling marginalised, powerless, and utterly disillusioned. The most recent scandal, the leaked documents revealing Starmer's secret deals regarding aid to Ukraine, was the tipping point. The revelation that Starmer had privately scaled back Britain's commitment to Ukraine while publicly proclaiming unwavering support was not only a betrayal of British values but a direct affront to the very principles that Labour has always championed. This was not a minor misstep, this was a deliberate, calculated act of deception. Starmer promised the British public that Labour would stand firm with Ukraine, that Britain would do its part in supporting a sovereign nation under attack. But behind closed doors, he was actively reducing military and financial assistance, all while maintaining the facade of unwavering support. This betrayal was more than just a political blunder, it was a fundamental breach of trust. When politicians fail to live up to their promises, the public's faith in them erodes. When they fail to stand by their principles, they lose their moral legitimacy. Starmer's actions not only shattered the public's trust but ignited a rebellion within his own party. Ministers who had supported him through thick and thin were now publicly condemning him. They could no longer defend the indefensible. The scale of the resignation and public fallout is a direct reflection of how far Starmer has fallen. Let's not sugarcoat the reality here. Keir Starmer's leadership is not just failing, it is collapsing. And it is collapsing under the weight of his own contradictions. Starmer promised a new era for Labour, a return to socialism and social justice. But his actions have exposed the hollowness of those promises. His government, plagued by secret deals and backroom negotiations, is no different from any other establishment-run regime that Labour has so often criticised. His betrayal of Ukraine, a country fighting for its survival, is emblematic of his entire approach to governance, half-hearted, deceitful, and ultimately self-serving. It is no surprise, then, that Starmer's leadership is facing such resistance. The Labour Party's future is not in the hands of a leader who puts party interests above the people's needs. It's in the hands of those who are brave enough to stand up to his leadership and demand something better. Labour's internal collapse is not a coincidence. It is the result of years of neglect, mismanagement, and disregard for party unity. Starmer's refusal to listen to his own MPs, his lack of transparency, and his failure to deliver on his promises have left the party in a state of chaos and confusion. But this crisis is not just about Labour's internal struggles. It is about the future of the country. The promises of higher public spending, more regulation, and higher taxes are not solutions to Britain's problems. They are just a recipe for economic disaster. The budget looming on the horizon is a time bomb waiting to go off. Labour's policies, driven by Starmer's misguided leadership, will only push Britain further into decline. Unemployment will rise, growth will stagnate, and the country will continue down the path of financial ruin. The idea that Starmer's Labour is capable of delivering a stable, prosperous future is an illusion, a dangerous one, at that. In the end, the question is not whether Starmer's leadership will survive this crisis. It won't. The question is whether Labour can recover from the damage he has done. Can they rebuild their party, restore public trust, and return to the values that once made them a beacon of hope for the working class? The Labour Party is at a crossroads. It can either double down on its disastrous leadership and continue down the path of destruction, or it can seize this moment to break free from the shackles of Starmer's toxic rule and chart a new course. But the clock is ticking, and time is running out for Labour to salvage its future. Keir Starmer has failed the party, failed the country, and failed the people who trusted him. His leadership is finished. The question now is how much longer Labour is willing to let this disaster continue.